Hello viewers and good afternoon. You're welcome to your program, The Spring Clinic, coming your way from the Western Spring Television. You can see us on channels 190, Star Times, and on our social media handles. I'm your regular host, Dr. ADEOYE OYEWOLE. This afternoon, I have another very important guest, a medical doctor, this time around a woman. We've been having men, but today we are having a woman coming our way. She's Dr. Cosly ADERIBIGBE-SABA. She's the Executive Secretary, Global Youth Consortium Against Female Genital Mutilation. Dr. Saba, you're welcome to this program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you. She just reminded me that I taught her in medical school.
Absolutely.
Thank God I don't have gray hair. For me to feel that this is somebody that I taught. When we see LAUTECH is just one of the wonderful medical schools. With a lot of our graduates doing very well, in different areas of the medical field. So I'm excited and I feel good having you on this program.
Can't agree less. LAUTECH.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So please, what about this Global Youth Consortium? What's it all about?
Okay, the Global Youth Consortium is a movement of young people from over 55 countries working actively to achieve a world free of female genital mutilation by 2030. The Global Youth Consortium was established in 2021, so it's new, and that's why the name is not everywhere, some UN agencies. So it's new, and it started after a meeting in Dakar where young people came together to brainstorm and forge a way ahead on how to accelerate the elimination of female genital mutilation, because we noticed that, yes, a lot of work is being done with religious leaders, with, different stakeholders, but we're achieving little or no results. I can't say that there is no progress, but the progress is very slow. And so young people felt that we can bring the A game on board. There are ways that young people don't give up. They can get very hard to reach communities. Some young people are even survivors themselves. So they came together to bring that youth energy on board to push. That was how the Global Youth Consortium was birthed.
Now, with this your huge qualification, MBBS, why are you focusing on just this issue of female genital mutilation? What sparked what's your personal connection to it? Okay,
thank you very much. So I'm going to refer back to when I was in school, and thank God you're my teacher. As medical students, we also do a lot of community outreaches. I took mine a little further by volunteering with the Nigerian Medical Student Association, and then did a whole lot of projects. And during one of the projects, I was to lead a community engagement on female genital mutilation in Osun State. Wow. And most of the places we visited, most of the communities we visited during that project, all of them said that they were not going to leave the practice. And these were communities close to the hospital. You're talking of Osun State? Osun State. Okay. So they said that in fact, one of the households that we visited actually threatened to pour hot water on our body. And during another dialogue, still on the same project, that was when I got challenged that for me to, that if I'm truly, they asked for my state, then I said I'm from Osun State. Okay. So they said if I'm truly from Osun State, then I must have been mutilated. I cannot be studying medicine. I can't be in school without undergoing FGM.
Otherwise, you will have dropped out of school. I would have dropped out.
I would have been pregnant. You would have been pregnant
and all of that.
And I was like, no, it can't be. It can't be. So, looking back, that word actually struck me. And then I also linked that with some of the things that I've seen, the external genitalia malformation that I've noticed, and then I'm like, can this be FGM? Yeah. No, it can't be. So after one of our end of posting exams, I went back home and then I asked my parents, was I mutilated? And then they said yes. So both of them said, yeah, it was a very
cultural thing.
Yeah. So that was since that time from when I was in school. I mean, so many other things I do also. I provide sexual and reproductive health to young people, information and services to young people. But this issue of FGM is something that we really have to be vocal about. Yes, we have to be vocal about it.
Why are you worried about it? What is the problem? Or let's start with the fact that what is female genital mutilation?
Okay, so female genital mutilation is basically, cutting of female external genital organ for non-medical reasons. So I'm not going to go into WHO definition, but I just want our audience to know that female genital mutilation is whatever you do to the female external genitalia that is not recommended by doctors, that is not recommended by an health worker, that you're doing because it's a cultural thing. So for non-medical, for non-therapeutic purpose, that is what FGM is.
Yeah, but what are the reasons they allude to the practice? Because I know human beings don't do anything without a reason. I want to believe that they have their reasons for this practice to be sustained over generations. So what are the reasons that they allude for this practice?
Okay, I'm not going to say that they are like genuine reasons, but you know, when people give reasons for things, they believe so much in those reasons, even though these reasons we know that they are myths, they are not true. It's been proven over and over. You know, some of the communities that we visited, some communities told us, I think recently I was in ADEOYE State, and I was told that if a girl is not mutilated in that community in ADEOYE State, that when the head of the during delivery process, when the head of a baby touches the clitoris of an unmutilated woman, uncircumcised woman, that the baby would just die immediately. That
Superstition.
Superstition. Absolute myth. What connection does clitoris have with the head of the baby?
You know, when it comes to culture, when it comes to a cultural practice, we also invent taboos, superstitions, myths to scare and to ensure compliance.
Exactly.
So apart from that, yes, what are the other reasons they give?
Some people said that a woman that is not mutilated would not be fertile. She wouldn't even be able to conceive.
Oh, they feel that there's a linkage between
you know, mutilating the external female, cutting the labia and everything, just keeping the place clean, clean it in tough.
Oh, okay. So it enhances fertility. And yet this thing has no rootage in science. We know that it has. And I think our viewers also know too that that has nothing to do with fertility.
And then when we go and talk to them that it has no connection, you know, they want a further discussion about it to really be sure that what we are saying is true. But again, because we are health workers, they tend to believe health workers. So when we tell them after a little bit of back and forth, you know, they tend to believe eventually. I know communities that the only reason why they cut girls is because they think a girl that is not cut will become promiscuous in court.
Especially because, you know, in the African culture, the issue of virginity, sexual sanctity, has both cultural and religious connotations. And I think in the olden days, parents are usually not proud if they don't have a lady who was not met a virgin. So maybe this has actually also promoted.
Doctor, let me tell you something. The thing about FGM is that we've discovered that some people are, in fact, the research is still ongoing to say that even a girl that is caught might have a high propensity to want to explore. I would not call it promiscuity, but just to want to explore.
How do you explain that?
This is what I mean. You know, when girls are together, even young girls, we work with them, the conversations they have amidst themselves, you will be surprised. Even for married women, when they start to converse about, you know,
sex and sexuality
and how the husbands make them feel, a not circumcised woman doesn't feel that way. So feels that maybe there's a problem with the husband and feels like if she should try someone else, maybe she would get that satisfaction that her friends that are not circumcised are talking about.
I get your point. So it's like,
it might continue like that.
So it's like what we're actually trying to prevent.
Exactly.
May actually trigger
is one of the enabling factor for it. So it's something that have been proven over and over.
I've never looked at it that way. So what we want to prevent by saying we don't want our daughters who have their clit intact and they'll be promiscuous, let's cut it, is the actual practice that makes them to be adventurous, to want to find out about
absolutely. Look at back in those days when everybody, almost all women were mutilated. But there are not people that were promiscuous. But there are not people that were doing this as a full-time job. There were a lot of women and, you know, and young girls that were into all sorts of sexual promiscuity. A lot. So if it was to, you know, if the main purpose is actually true, then we won't have that record. We won't have that record.
No, could it be that they're also trying to balance it between genders? You know, they also circumcise women too.
Well, the thing about male circumcision is circumcision, and we know that is medically, you know, accepted, correct, because it has a lot of health benefits for the male child. But the female external genitalia has no need to recreate. It's completely created. Each part of the female external genitalia has a specific function. For example, the clitoris that is being cut off usually in this environment has its own function. You know, some people even cut the labia, the labia majora,
and then sew the vulva.
You know, they even cut the minora and then sew the vulva to just leave a little hole for urine and menstrual flow. All of these organs has a specific function.
What are some of the specific functions, please? So that people at home can actually, let me talk to them at home that, please, I hope you are enjoying this discussion with Dr. Costly ADERIBIGBE-SABA. She's the Executive Secretary, Global Youth Consortium Against Female Genital Mutilation. She's here, you know, reeling out. She's so passionate about this thing, and then she wants our people, especially we parents, to be able to be properly educated, please. So, madam, this issue about the parts, the external parts of the female genitalia, what are the functions? What roles do they play? Okay, so I'm going to talk about the clitoris because that's what is mostly cut off in this environment, in southwestern part. And there are also some communities where everything is being yanked off. Oh yes, not just the clit. Not just the clit. They'll cut off. They'll cut off everything and make it plain. The clitoris is a very important, you know, organ, and it actually enhances sexual pleasure. And that is why, you know, it's believed that when that clitoris is being cut off, a woman might lose, you know, the interest in engaging in sexual activity. But the truth is that, for example, I was telling some people recently, I said, yes, my you know, I was mutilated as a child. Now I'm out of school, I'm married. Can you please give me my clitoris back? So that I can enjoy my marriage. Can you hand it over back to me? The truth about it is that it's permanent damage. And then it's just there. Some people believe that it continues to grow and grow, and then it can start competing with the penis, which is not correct. Not true. Okay, that's one of the myths. Yes, that's one of the myths. That's why they cut it off. Oh, really? Yes. So it doesn't grow beyond a particular size. It has a size, and it has a major function. As nature has designed it. As nature has designed it. Look at the labia that is also being cut off. It serves as protective covering. To the vulva, to the opening of the vaginal orifice. So it also has a specific function. The labia minora that is being cut off also has its own function. And look at the vulva eventually that is also being damaged. During delivery, it's supposed to expand. It's an elastic, you know, it's an elastic tissue that's supposed to expand to accommodate the head of the baby during delivery. But most times it's being injured and it leaves scar tissue all around. Before we even go into the complications, who are these surgeons? Are they trained? Which medical schools are they trained? I like the fact that you call them surgeons. Because I'm worried. Because by the time somebody begins well-respected surgeons in the community. Because I'm worried that before somebody will carry knife or some form of instrument and begin to cut my body, I need to know where you are trained. But there's a lot of risk attached to them. Who are these people who do these things in the community? The notorious ones are the traditional birth attendants. They do it a lot. Also traditional cutters. Maybe there are even families who have been known over the years. Yes, that is their, it's their, you know, their work, family work, and they pass it over from one generation to another generation. And almost every community have that family. They call them, in Yoruba language, it's called Olola family. Olola, yes. I think they also do that of the men. They also do that of the men. Actually, you know, we've had several engagements with these people, and we got to know that some of them, you know, were doing it because they also did not know any better. It was just what their parents, you know, forefathers passed over to them. And they didn't interrogate it. And then communities, you know, to every issue, there's always a supply demand side and then a supply side. If people don't take their children to these people, they would not have anything to work on. So it's also because community members also keep demanding from it, and this is what their forefathers taught them how to do. So when people come with their babies, they just conduct. Okay, so we have the traditional cutters. Exactly. Apart from them, how about the medical? There's some form from medical practitioners. Absolutely. You know, also some different healthcare. Okay, that's also. They also depending on the their cultural their cultural bias. In fact, recently a friend of mine delivered in Imo State, and then we were together in a program in Lagos, and it was called that his own child is being mutilated,
presently while we were in that meeting.
This
so
is,
very devastating. A guy, he had to call to find out what exactly was happening. So the nurse spoke with him on phone and told him that what they were only doing to the clitoris is massaging, that they were just massaging it so hard that they are not going to cut it, they are just massaging it to deaden the tissue, but this one is not cutting, so it's not FGM. So a lot of people don't even know what FGM is, you know, due to, and then their own bias. The nurse already believed that, okay, there must be a way to deaden this thing. This thing was not,
even if we are not going to cut it,
we must kill it.
But you know, interestingly, I read that for women, majority of the women, more than 90%, actually achieve orgasm through clitoral stimulation.
Yes. That is it. The other part of orgasm is just 10%. 10%, so if you cut it away, it's good
like
as
taking
saying,
the chunk of,
okay, you know, you can just be there.
Could this be rooted in patriarchy?
We had stories that, you know, during those days that men actually started this thing because they want their wife to be so loyal to them.
Of course, they are polygamous. They have about 4 or 5, and
they don't want their wife to practice.
Yes,
them.
and they don't want
they cut them to control them, to keep them in the house, to make them feel less of themselves and just be there. Because it's the husband that is like the champion. The woman is just there like a log of wood. So it's a very strong control mechanism.
But anyway, thank God we have a very competent person here, a doctor who has taken, you know, into this campaign. And thank God you're also married, because somebody will be tempted to think, I hope you are not a feminist. But I don't think it has to do with feminism. It's just a fair, we are trying to say that, please, let's treat this gender fairly.
Exactly.
Why try to destroy? You know,
this thing has no health benefits.
No health benefits.
Let us just stop it.
What are the complications that you have noticed is associated with this female genital mutilation?
Thank you very much. You know, the external female genitalia has a lot of nerve and blood vessel supply, and the truth is that any damage, especially the clitoris that has been cut off, like I said, we are contextualizing this issue now, has a lot of blood supply, and so any cut, any damage to that part can of course, blood will definitely come out when there's an injury, when there's a damage to the tissue. But the truth about the clitoris is that the volume of blood that comes out is very significant. Wow. Beyond that, there are babies that naturally they have a tendency not to form blood clots easily. But the truth is that we don't do those routine diagnoses. We don't do those routine investigation when a child is being born. So how do you tell a child?
Some can die as a result.
A traditional cutter told me that he stopped cutting girls because at one time he cut a baby and right on his table. And there's this saying in Yoruba land that a child does not die in the hands of traditional cutters. So Yoruba will say omo kukinti owo lolako. So a child
it is also to protect that practice.
Exactly.
Maybe because at a point there was a decreased mortality. And so they were saying, no, don't go any other place.
Just go to traditional cutters because the children don't die in their hands. But for this man, it was a very terrible experience because the baby actually died from bleeding. Wow. He did everything to stop the bleeding. And you see, because, like I said, significant volume usually come out normally. So they have all other measures that they take in stopping, in ensuring clot is formed. They use snail water mixed with charcoal, mixed with different things.
That will introduce infection.
Exactly, that can even introduce infection. So, but they did all of this for this child, but unfortunately,
so apart from bleeding,
didn't make it.
Infection can also kill.
Exactly. You see, there are some communities that when they want to cut babies, they cut them at the same time. Like when you have your child, you wait for other women in the communities that have given birth.
They come in groups.
They come in groups to
the same tool.
Exactly. That
so if somebody has some form of HIV or some form of infection, it gets transmitted.
It just continues like that.
What's the age bracket?
Okay, so in southwestern Nigeria, generally in Nigeria, babies are usually cut, within the first day of life to the 8th day of life. But it doesn't mean that they don't still cut girls at age 2, at age 3. Recently, we are presently pursuing a case in Oyo State. This girl was cut at age 2. And we've also met girls that were caught at age 13. For example, I was mutilated before the 8th day of life. In fact, they said on the 8th day
so
of life.
So you didn't know?
Yes.
I hope you don't have animosity against daddy and mommy.
No.
Because they did
exactly.
Because it also has its own psychological side.
Yes, initially it was like that. Initially it was like that.
You had a closure.
Yes.
Mommy and daddy, they apologized.
They apologized, including my grandmother that brought the circumciser.
That they didn't know.
Yes.
Because a lot of these practices,
and then they became champion.
Oh,
so my mom is dead now.
Wow.
She died a few months ago, but
may her soul rest in peace. But at least you had closure with her.
Exactly.
Because I mean, some people who may have suffered this could also be harboring some form of misgivings against their parents, against whoever championed the fact that they should have.
We've seen that a lot. Since we've listened to survivors' conversation, confiding in us of how terrible that procedure have changed their life and how they hate those that took that decision on their behalf. In fact, a girl that was caught at 13, she's now 18. We met her recently and she said that she still remembers everything. She remembers how she was
a 13-year-old girl.
She remembers how she was deceived, how she was
held down,
how she was butchered, and she still feels very angry. Even from our conversation with her, we noticed that anger. We saw that rage in her.
So some could actually break down and have some degree of depressive illness.
Absolutely. A girl recently, she noticed that she had a growth on her clitoris, but she didn't know that it was related to the mutilation. The day she was told in the hospital that it's directly related to the mutilation, she felt like tearing her parents apart.
And some who cannot even act out could get suicidal. Some could actually be depressed and then think that life is not. You see post-traumatic stress disorder, yes, as a result of the mutilation. How about, does it affect marriage?
Yes, it does.
What actually helped you? Maybe your husband was quite supportive.
Well, yes.
How did you manage?
Like I said, I started advocating against this practice from when I was in medical school. So we had that conversation before marriage. We had that discussion and
it's supportive.
Yes, and it's supportive. In fact, he's also an advocate against
FGM. So you've called, I think it's a Mr. or a doctor?
Yeah, Mr.
So Mr. Saba, please, thanks for supporting your wife because you have helped her to navigate a very
and we need more men to join this conversation.
I think so, because as a father, I have two gorgeous daughters. I can't imagine somebody in my absence. Like, how did your friend from Imo State, I just imagine how his head will, will feel at the time.
He almost left. He went to the airport to even ask for the next available flight.
Yeah, because
unfortunately he couldn't get a flight. So he started talking to all of them on phone and questioning them and telling them to just stop, just leave.
Don't leave my daughter, please. And daddies and their daughters, Yes, you are.
In fact, the 2-year-old was also mutilated while the mother was not there. It was the grandma that took her. And you see, all sorts of things are happening. And we just really need to increase this awareness.
Yes.
And let people know that it has no effect. It has no medical, it has no benefits.
Yeah.
We should just leave girls alone.
What are some of the other complications? We've seen psychological complications. We've seen bleeding. We've seen infection. What other complications? Also,
in the process of pinning down, it's a painful procedure.
Yeah.
In fact, some people have described the pain they felt during those that were aware, the pain they felt during circumcision as being worse than labor pain.
Wow.
That was a very terrible pain. Wow. So, and I think that's why, the Yoruba part of Nigeria does it for children before they can even remember what has been done for them. Mothers that have witnessed, mutilation for their babies said that they couldn't even behold that side. So there's an extreme excruciating pain
both for the mother and then
the child as well.
Apart from that, does it affect childbirth?
Yes, we talked about scar. The truth about it is that our normal tissue, once it's being injured and it heals with scar formation.
Yes.
And so you cannot expect a scar tissue to still look like the normal tissue. So it's the same thing that happens down there. So once those parts have been cut off, it leaves a scar tissue there, and then it's a part that has been designed, to hold, expand to the maximum,
elastic
during childbirth. It becomes very stiff, and then there is tear levels of.
So there could be FGM could just be one of the causes of prolonged labor,
exactly,
or even indications for surgical intervention.
In fact, it has been said that women that that have undergone FGM are twice more likely to deliver through CS than women that did not go through.
Wow.
So of course, we know that there are other indications for cesarean delivery.
Yes, but
we're saying that FGM is also a major contributing factor to this.
Any other complications of female genital mutilation?
You know, we also talked about self-esteem, you know.
Yes, self-esteem. A lot may not be able to. I mean, your parents must have been quite supportive for you to have been able to come out and say, you know, I was trying to dance around it to say that you've been able to go through it. But I just imagine the number of women who may have come down with that self-esteem, inferiority complex.
Exactly, especially when, you know, like I said, women discuss a lot, and when they know that they don't feel the way other women feel, they don't so even for those that don't know when they were caught and they discover that some of the complications they're going through is as a result
lead to drug abuse. Somebody can start abusing substances, marijuana, cocaine,
in a bit to just
compensate.
Exactly.
As a form of immature defense mechanism for that sense of loss.
It doesn't really take it off. It just reduces.
And then of course can even affect so viewers at home, we have Dr. Costley ADERIBIGBE-SABA. She's the Executive Secretary, Global Youth Consortium Against Female Genital Mutilation. Thank you, Doctor. Now, I want to challenge you. Parents, society, we are worried about women being very promiscuous. You know, we see young ladies now, all forms of sexual recklessness, disrespect for conventions, even when it comes to sexual relations. What do you think is the right strategy? Because the idea of sexual chastity and purity that our forefathers wanted to curb remains the same. We want decent, beautiful ladies like this, married. You understand what I'm saying? Not somebody who is all over the place. So what is your own strategy? Because if you are taking this away, what strategy are you giving us?
Okay, so like we all know, there's no debate around this. FGM is never the solution. It has not helped. It has not helped.
It has actually caused more problem than
for us. So
because from all the things you are explaining,
you know, it's important that even offering this does not mean that we are trying to say we are replacing it with FGM. No, the FGM is not even part of this conversation. It's not even an option. But if you want your child, you know, to be focused as a parent, you want your child to turn out well, all you need to do, especially for girls, is to show them love, absolute love. Bring them up in the way that you want them to turn up. Also live that life, live that example. Beyond that, be very free. You see, there's this very big word that we say comprehensive sexuality education. It's very big. But what we are saying is that be very free with them such that they can discuss anything with you. Once they want to ask questions, once they're not clear about anything, they can come to you. Talk to them about their body. Don't just limit it to, you know, just daddy, good morning, you know, have you gone to church, have you gone to mosque, don't you pray by 7, you know. Don't just limit it to that.
So you prefer sexuality education?
Exactly.
Because I see oftentimes we talk of sex education, it limits to just the sexual intercourse.
No,
meanwhile, sexuality,
beyond that, it's an holistic thing. You talk to them about their body, about nobody spoke to me about menstruation until I saw my first menstruation, and I thought there was a problem. Though I learned it, but it was abstract. When the reality came, I learned it in school. Like I mean, some of the subjects that we did in secondary school, but it was not real to me. But when I saw my menstruation for the first time, I was crying. Scary. I thought something had happened to me.
But I hope I'm not dying.
And I had a terrible abdominal pain that I thought I was going to die. In fact, I asked God for forgiveness. I said, God, if you can just make me stay alive for 3 more days, I will save, you know, all those children that was very scared until somebody said, no, this is what is happening to you. You can do this to relieve the pain. You know, you have to use a pad, because I stacked all my clothes together in there just to cover. And I didn't want anybody to know that, you know, there was something happening.
Are you the only girl?
No, I was not the only girl, but the first daughter, yes.
First daughter.
So, but for my sister, she didn't have to go through all of that because I discussed with her. I spoke to her about.
Let her know before you prepared her before.
Yes. So we need to talk to girls about their body. We need to talk to them about the things, you know, the part of their body. And some people don't even know that when a guy eats, a stranger eats, you know, any part of the sensitive part of the body, like their buttock, their breast, that it's a taboo. We conduct a lot of surveys that girls don't even know that it's sexual harassment, that is sexual assault.
That you don't touch a woman. They call it battery.
You know,
in developed countries, yes.
They don't know. So some people, even in class, boys plays with the part of their body, and they don't know that.
Anyhow.
And touch them anyhow. They don't even know that it's wrong. That they have a right to say no. They have a right to say, I don't like it. If you do it again, I'm going to report you. They don't have that basic skill to even, you know,
which
to negotiate to relate, yes, with opposite sex and all of that. These are things that we need to expose girls to. Not telling them that, no, this is your orange. Don't let, this is your orange. Don't, you know, you don't call it the name it is. And then somebody else call it the name it is outside, and they believe that person absolutely.
Anyway, doctor, I think you are just loaded about this, your female genital mutilation. And it's good, you know, you're connected to it, is a passion. We have to go on a short break. When we come back, we're going to discuss further on this important subject. Thank you. Don't go away.
The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Moremi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history. James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainee's Diary, Constitution, and The People, among 6 other books. Bolaige was a colorful politician, elected governor of Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba socio-cultural and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bolaige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Western Spring Television identifies Bolaige as a watershed character in history.
Yes, welcome viewers at home. This is the second segment of our program, the Spring Clinic. In the last 20 or 30 minutes, I've had the privilege of speaking with Dr. Costly ADERIBIGBE-SABA. She's the Executive Secretary, Global Youth Consortium Against Female Genital Mutilation. You will agree with me that it's been a very wonderful time with you. Yes, I know you have 1 or 2 things doing with the African Union or something.
Yes. Thank you. Of course, we know that most countries with very high prevalence of FGM are domiciled in Africa. So the African Union also have a very strong initiative against female genital mutilation, and the initiative is called the Salima Initiative.
Okay.
So for us at the Global Youth Consortium, we work with the Salima Initiative. We work with already existing structures,
platforms, yes.
And that's the way we work across all other continents where we work, Asia Pacific.
That's
we work
good.
with already existing platform in those areas. Yes, with the African Union also have a postgraduate institution.
Oh, good. So you're having your postgraduate study?
Yes.
In what?
In reproductive health.
With special emphasis on female genital mutilation, because you're already a professor of female genital
My research topic might not even be on that, because we do a lot of surveys with the organization.
of other things. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Yes, but there's a perspective I want us to look at. It is the patriarchy side, because as a strategy, in your strategy, I don't know how much of men do you bring into this your campaign.
Okay.
Because like we have been able to infer from the fact that the female genital mutilation is maybe a product of patriarchy in itself. And so for women to also have to grow, to be confident, to be achievers, and then not to also be promiscuous, which is the thing that patriarchy hid under. Exactly. So what are your strategies?
Well, to talk about male involvement,
yes.
If you're ever going to achieve anything, in fact, there is nothing we want to achieve, that humanity wants to achieve, that we don't need, the 2 components of humanity to come together to agree that, yes, this is a common goal that we want to bring to reality. The truth is that before now, FGM campaigns, also have always included men, but more than ever before this year, the strategy is changing.
Correct.
And then we are intentional about including men, not just as, not just as passive listeners, but even actors and activists and advocates speaking up publicly and boldly about the issue of female genital mutilation. So, in fact, the theme for this year's Zero Tolerance against FGM was working with men and boys, to end female genital mutilation. That was the whole focus, and everything was all about men and boys, coming out, getting the deep understanding of this issue, and how FGM actually affects men and boys. You see, I was speaking with some people, some men, group of men in a particular place. So it was a focus group discussion, so it was very interactive. So one man stood up and mentioned that he said that FGM can kill men. And I'm like,
no, that people...
Yes, that FGM can kill men. And everybody said, oh my God, Mister, can you go on and tell us how? And he said that for a man, if you're married to a woman, and the woman have been mutilated, but makes you feel every time that you are the problem, you want to continue to impress the woman. So you may start abusing drugs. You know, you may start taking things that you think can, you know, that maybe the more active you are, the better you're able to satisfy your woman. But the problem is not with you. She has been mutilated. It's not her fault, but she doesn't even understand the reality of what she's going through and how both can come together, you know, to cope with it. So the man wants to continue to try all means. And then in the process of getting, you know, addiction and all of that, the man might eventually lose his senses and all, and you know, just be dependent. Just
like some people who use aphrodisiac and they're also on antihypertensive drugs. The two don't go together, and then the heart stops.
Thank you. Cardiac arrest and all of that. So when he said that, we were like, we have never really looked at it from this perspective.
Can you see that?
So I wrote it. I said in my diary, I said FGM can kill men. So I think if there's one thing that we are going to be taking away from this conversation is also that FGM is not just a women issue. It's not just a girl issue. It's everybody's issue, because FGM can kill women and it can also kill men. So we are very intentional about bringing men and boys into this conversation. They are mostly the custodians of culture, traditional leaders, religious leaders, and so we're working closely with them, even boys in secondary school. We recently had a gender equality competition where we had girls and boys form, you know, play together in the same team. This is not boys versus girls. We are forming a team. 11 players, boys and girls are made up of. They are mixed.
Yes.
And then it was really
interesting. Cooperate.
So they cooperate before each what they call it now, before each tournament, each match. Thank you. We call them, we talk to them about together, they plan together, and then we talk to them about issues of gender equality, you know, FGM and all of that. So they go with that spirit of working together and protecting each other, and then they go ahead and play and
resetting their brain against patriarchy.
Using sports, so something just very novel, apart from just sitting them down and talking to them, you know, and resetting their brain about patriarchy, gender stereotypes.
Must know it all.
Masculinity,
it's the only person who knows it, and the other person.
But seeing that the ladies who can be in the same team with them, and they have to and they have to work with them, it was really a very interesting one. It was held amidst secondary school students.
That's fantastic.
We're hoping to be able to scale this up, and we've also used art. We've used a lot of ways to communicate this, so that it doesn't become boring. Every time you carry your megaphone, you just talk like, what's your problem?
Or going combative. No, but how do you interrogate religion? I'm a pastor. And I only yesterday on a program here, I was talking about sexual chastity and sexual purity. Religion and culture, they intermingle. How do you interface with religion?
It's a very serious one. I was in the Gambia a couple of months ago, and the community we visited was purely a Muslim community. And in that community, they believed that FGM is linked to their religion. So for me, you know, going, one had to conform. I also had to cover my head.
Of course.
I also had to look like them.
Of course.
And then even speaking with them, I did not just go alone. I went with my other colleagues that are also Muslims. We also went with imams, you know, from within the Gambia that are already advocating against FGM. So using that strategy, it was very easy for us to be able to gain audience with them, for them to speak out their biases, and then we're able to communicate with them. The same strategy is what we use, even for the Christians. So when we're going to communities, we go with religious leaders that are already converted. We go with state officials. We have people in the Ministry of Health that are very passionate about this. We book them ahead of those community dialogues, so that when we show up in any community, they see us as advocates, they see survivors, they see people that, you know, when they want to ask questions about religion, an imam, respected imam, talks to them. When they ask about
some situate it, I think some situate some of these practices in the scriptures.
Especially in Muslims believe that some Muslims believe that it's related to religion, and I think I'm not really able to speak explicit about this, but the truth is that they said there's more higher and then there's the greater higher. So this is recommended in the small higher, and then the recommendations of, you know, the prophet in the small higher, you have to really contextualize it in recent happenings. Saudi Arabia, you know, is the custodians of this, where Muslims, you know, all of them look up to for, you know, for direction in terms of religion. But Saudi Arabia, prevalence of FGM in Saudi Arabia is equal to 0.
Wow.
Yes.
And that means they've been able to deploy,
you know, they've been able to really look at this Maya and say, no, this does not work for us.
And the same thing for
it's just the greater higher that you have to really follow
I think for Christianity too, there must be a way in which this must be interrogated. And of course, our African traditional religion.
Yes. Some Christians also believe that, you know, just the way you circumcise men,
yes, you should also, especially when we're looking at virginity, sexual purity, and chastity. You know, if this will help, please, why don't you go for it? Which has been yes, viewers at home, it's as though Dr. Costley ADERIBIGBE-SABA, the Executive Secretary, Global Youth Consortium Against Female Genital Mutilation, should not go away. It's been a very wonderful time,
Thank
madam.
you very much.
I hope viewers at home have learned one or two things, especially parents and particularly fathers. You should recruit them more.
Yes.
And we hope in the future you bring one of them here, so we'll come and ask how some of them have repented in perpetuating this. And of course, our grandmothers. So viewers at home, this is where we're going to draw the curtain this afternoon. Hoping to see you next week, same time, 3 to 4, Spring Clinic. I'm your regular host, Dr. ADEOYE OYEWOLE. Thank you.